Hi everyone. Today we're going to be teaching you guys a bit more about Lydende and bedrijvende, or in English, passive and active form. By the end of this video, you should be able to turn past tense, future tense, and present tense sentences into passive.
Before we dive into it, there are a few rules you should always try to stick to when working with Lydende. Always try to fully understand the sentence that you're trying to convert. You should also try and identify and underline the subject, verb, and object in the sentence you're about to convert. This will make it easier. Firstly, let's start off with teenwoordige leidende form, which in English means the passive form in present tense. In order to convert a present tense sentence to its passive form, there's a few basic steps that you need to follow to get there. Let's practice with a simple sentence to begin with. The sentence is, Johnny eat.
The steps. Step 1 is to identify the object within the sentence and move it to the beginning of the sentence. Step 2 is to now find your verb 1 in your sentence and add ge to the beginning of it and take it all the way to the end of the sentence. Step 3 is the most important step for teenwoordige leidende form. When converting a present sentence to passive in Afrikaans, we always add the words word and die directly after the object in the sentence. Step 4. Only if there's an adverb of time or an adverb of manner do word and die get split up and the adverbs placed between them. This is important to remember because later on in the video we'll get sentences that have these adverbs and we'll need. Now the sentence should look something like this. Johnny eat a apple now becomes a apple word deur Johnny. Now that we mastered present passive, we have most of the basic rules and structures. For sentences in future and past tense, there are just a few minor variations to the basic rules that have to be adjusted to put the sentences in leidende form. Let's start off with past tense. So for this section, we will be using the sentence, Adam het op die bed gespring.
Step 1. For past tense into leidende form is to once again identify the object and move it to the beginning of the sentence. Step 2 is to take the verb to the end and make sure there's a ge attached to the beginning. Step 3 is to add is and dir after the object at the beginning of your sentence. Once again, you need to remember if there's an adverb of time or an adverb of manner, the is and dir get split up and the adverbs placed between. This is important to remember because later on you'll get sentences that have adverbs. After these 4 steps, your sentence should look something like this. Adam het op die bed gespring now becomes die bed is deur Adam gespring. The last tense we have left to convert to leidende is the future tense. Future tense takes the same kind of form as the other 2 tenses we've already learned, but there are a few new things we need to do. First things first, for the future tense section, we will be using the sentence Johnny sal die bal skop to practice with. Step 1 is to look for the object in the sentence and move it to the beginning of the sentence. Step 2 is to make sure that your verb to is at the end of the sentence and make sure that it's beginning with a ge. Step 3 is to now insert your sal and dir in the second position after your object. Step 4. Unlike the other tenses, for toekomende, you need to add the word word after your verb at the end of the sentence. Step 5. This is the last time I'm going to remind you. You need to remember if there's an adverb of time or an adverb of manner, the sal and dir get split up and the adverbs placed between. This is going to come in handy a bit later when you need to complete various worksheets. So after all these steps, Johnny sal die bal skop now becomes die bal sal deur Johnny geskop word. There's a few circumstances in leidende that can be quite tricky, and if you don't know the correct rules, they'll leave you scratching your head. But don't stress, because that's what we're covering right now. The first exception is when there's a helpwerk or in English a helping verb in the sentence. The helpwerk to look out for are kan, kon, wil, moet, and gaan. For example, let's convert the sentence Gabe wil goeie punte kry. First things first, you need to know that when it's a helpwerk sentence, you use the format that you would for future tense Lydende. Step 1 is to, just like you would with any other Lydende sentence, identify the object and move it to the beginning of the sentence. Step 2, you can then take your verb to, make sure there's a ge attached to the beginning of it, and move it to the end of your sentence. Step 3, make sure you have your vort at the end of your sentence behind your verb. Step 4, add your helping verb, which in this case is wil, in the spot where sal would usually go. And don't forget to add deur in its regular position. After these steps, Gabe wil goeie punte kry. We also have special rules for when there are pronouns in a sentence. Let's use this. When converting to passive, you need to change the pronoun in the sentence so that it makes sense. A good tip is to ask. So let's go through this together. The sentence is Hy het die eerste prys gewen, which in English means he won the first prize. If I convert it without changing the pronoun correctly, it becomes. In English, this means the first prize is won by he, and this makes no sense. It should read him. In the end, Lydende form becomes a bit more tricky when the sentence contains a command. When dealing with commands, we add moet, which although it may seem tricky, all you really have to do is move your object to the beginning of the sentence, add a moet after it, make sure your verb has. If you did all these having no subject at the beginning of the sentence can also be quite tricky. To get around this, we have to use the word da. So all we have to do is start the sentence with da, make sure there's a moet in the second position after da, have our object come after moet, which in this case is huiswerk, have our verb start with a ge and come down. Basically, if your sentence is a question, depending on which tense it's being asked in, you follow that rule's format. But there are a few variations that need to be made. Let's use the sentence Wie koop die brood to. Step 1 is before you do anything, and no matter the tense, add a deur at the very beginning of the sentence. Step 2 is to take your verb all the way to the end and add a ge to the beginning of it. And if it's a future tense sentence, add a vort after the. Step 3 is, depending on your tense, you either add the word word, sal, or is after the. A quick tip is, note how throughout all of this I haven't moved the placement of the object and have instead worked around it. As a first language English speaker, I found this a lot easier than if I would have had to move the object. Your question sentence should go from Wie koop die brood to Deur wie word die brood. And that's basically it for Lydende form. We really hope this video helped you understand. We know how difficult it may be for English speakers to learn any additional language, especially Afrikaans, so we've attached a study guide, an online code, and a worksheet for your consolidation and practice of what you. For more help with other parts of speech in Afrikaans, subscribe to the channel.